God's Feeding Station, man. We're at it again. I was just telling Henry, this is Pastor Doug, by the way. My Bible is falling apart. I'm thinking that's probably a good sign. What do you think, Henry?
I think that is a good sign.
It is a good sign, man. I was yelling at it over and over. I was like, don't turn the mics on. I can't find Ruth in my Bible.
It's like the book of Ruth disappeared.
It's all depleted out of it. Anyways, we are in the book of Ruth as we continue. Chapter 3. We're going to probably start at 16. And if people have been following along, I hope you've been enjoying this. Is a great story. Boaz, Ruth, Naomi. And so get your Bibles out. Hopefully your Bible still has Ruth in it. Okay. Ruth 3, I'm going to read 16, 17, and 18 just to get us kind of rolling. Okay?
Yeah.
And it's when Ruth came to her mother-in-law, actually, Naomi asked, "How did it go, my daughter?" Now, before I go any further, remember that Naomi had sent Ruth out to the threshing floor where Boaz was. She stayed the night there and gave this opportunity for the kinsman redeemer to receive Ruth, okay? So then in the next verse says, then she told her everything Boaz had done for her and added, he gave me these 6 measures of barley, saying, don't go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed. Then Naomi said, wait, my daughter, until you find out what happens. For the man will not rest until the matter is settled today. Okay?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Where do you want to start on that? And maybe talk a little bit about your title and what you're thinking.
Redemption Assured is the title. And I apologize for my voice out there, just a little under the weather. But Redemption Assured. And my question is, what do you make out of all that barley? What do you like besides beer? What do you?
Yeah, that's
what
the
do you make?
culture.
I mean, what kind of food do you
I'm
make?
thinking bread, and there's probably all kinds of stuff they can do with that.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of what do you with all that stuff, with all that grain, what do you make with that?
And I didn't find anything in any of my historical background that told me, actually.
Right.
I think it was just kind of assumed that they're making bread and probably rolls, biscuits, whatever, things like that. The major staples of kind of like, what do we make with corn? Around here we make ethanol now so we can get more gasoline out of it, or corn alcohol or whatever,
Yep.
So it's interesting that as this part of the story starts over, it could be that when she comes home to her mother-in-law, she may have not had any sleep that night. And I doubt that Naomi did either, because she sent her there with kind of a concocted plan. Or,
she's playing matchmaker, man.
She really is, in a sense, okay? Yep. And so I imagine Naomi's waiting at home with bated breath because, if this thing goes south, okay, now she's sent her in almost to like prostitution, in a sense. We talked a little bit about that in the earlier broadcast, okay? Or Boaz is going to go, get out of here, man. I'm not going there, okay?
No, he does what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to deal with this matter today. He's going to figure out they're going to be redeemed either. Ruth is going to be redeemed either today by Boaz or by this other guy.
Yeah,
it's going to be put to rest. And so I think at this point they know that they should be okay. Unless this other guy turns out to be a total jerk,
right? But
they're going to be taken care of, and the kinsman stuff that's laid out in Deuteronomy is going to get taken care of today.
It really does. Well, interesting. My Bible, yours might be different. In the first verse, Henry, mine says, "How did it go, my daughter?" Okay. Does yours translate it much different?
I'm trying to find it here because I don't have my glasses on.
Yeah. How did it go, my daughter? Is mine.
No, she says, "Is that you, my daughter?"
Is that you?
When she came to her mother-in-law, she said, "Is that you, my daughter?"
Okay.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, there's some of the translation in the Hebrew could be, "How are you, my daughter?" Are you okay? But it's interesting. She doesn't say, "Hey, what did he do?" In other words,
what was it? Just yeah. Well, she comes home with a bag full of foods. I think the answer's pretty obvious.
Yeah, it really is. So now here's what's interesting. It seems like it's a gift, right? And what I found with some of my studies is that there were customs about betrothal. In other words, part of the story would be, I'm going to take us to an illustration of like a real estate contract, for example. And you and your wife, Linda Henry, you guys go out and you find this house, and it's an open house, and you're like, you know what, we'll take the house. And so the people are like, okay, well, I'm glad you want to do it. And then it's not like you shake hands and then you say, okay, we'll see you guys in 30 days at the closing table. You write a earnest money check.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
It's called consideration. So in one sense, I think Boaz is being considerate, potentially. He blesses Naomi, who's calling the shots. And you know what? I think Boaz knows this. I think we're going to learn this. Boaz knows this thing. The shots are being called by mom who cares for her daughter. Okay? And in order to get Ruth, and what we're going to learn goes along with this, which is some property that's inherited through Naomi's now dead husband, you've got to play by the rules. And so Naomi, although she's a widow and doesn't really have the rights under the law to sell the property, and we're going to find that coming up, some of the translations say she offers to sell her property. The ancient language kind of has a nebulous understanding. In a sense, she's saying, I'm willing it to be transferred over according to the Levirate marriage law of the kinsman redeemer.
Okay.
So Naomi is shrewd, man.
She just knows what she's doing.
She does.
She really knows what she's doing.
And guess what? What's Boaz? He's a very, very successful businessman in the area, right?
Yeah, but very righteous as well.
Righteous as well.
Righteous man.
So what I think he's doing, he's beginning to respond as a character righteous man. By the way, 6 bushels of barley, but he's also saying, and here's a consideration. In other words, kind of like a betrothal for my promise. I'm not only saying I'm going to make this matter dealt with today, I'm giving you a gift to make my word good.
Yeah, I think he told her, look, there's another guy here who we need to consult with first because he has first rights of refusal, basically.
Correct. That's the legal term.
And he's just going, and again, I can't, to me, the most important thing in watching Boaz do his thing is that this is second nature to him. He is so ingrained in walking with God. He just acts righteously out of acting righteously. He just does. This is part of his life.
I know.
This is like a guy who, it's like playing drums. You just do it. I just know. I've been doing it for so long. You just know. Well, he's walked with God for so long. He knows what the right thing is to do, and he just does it. He doesn't have to think about it. He doesn't have to go down the holier than thou checklist to make sure that he's doing what he's supposed to do. He just he knows it, and he does it because this is how he lives his life.
Yeah, so he doesn't send her home empty-handed to start with. And now here, not only, I think it's so cool that you're using the word righteous, because not only has he been walking with God and righteous, but he's rightly responding to the law.
Right.
So he's an honest, honorable, in the light type of guy.
Right.
So his first obligation is to Naomi, not really to Ruth, because part of the kinsman obligations are based on the relationship with Naomi.
Right, through Elimelech. Right.
Ruth is the baggage that's tied to.
She's going to benefit from it, but
yes.
Yeah.
So he's probably showing a little bit of appreciation.
Right.
He also is, I would think, he's encouraging Ruth. Okay, but Naomi had already told Ruth, okay, dear, it's time to take off your mourning sack clothes.
Yeah, move on.
And it's time to start putting on I'm available clothes. Turn the sign around, I'm available.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's a guy who fits the kinsman redeemer.
Yep.
So Boaz may have sent this gift as some kind of a sign of good faith, some kind of promise to gain the right, but he's not going to disobey the law.
Or he could have just said, you guys need food, so here you go.
Yeah,
couldn't he?
It could have been just a gesture.
It could have been.
Yeah. But who's Ruth's legal guardian?
It's Naomi.
Naomi, okay.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and not even legal, right? Because her legal guardian would be back home in Moab.
Yeah, except now she's back in.
So the fact, I think Boaz.
In one sense, that's true.
Yeah, Boaz recognizes what she did with coming with Naomi and and committing to take care of her, make sure that she's dealt with fairly.
Yeah.
And Boaz recognizes that.
Yeah.
Now, because the other thing about Boaz is he's not self-righteous.
No, he's not.
Right. He doesn't preach what should be done and then not do it, or just talk a good game and then, whatever. He does it and doesn't boast about it, just does his thing.
So do you think Ruth, do you think Ruth is excited that something might be happening here?
Yeah, I think it's she's really good at just obeying. Right, she knows, because again, well, think about it, because she's coming from a land that doesn't have God as its central figure.
Yes,
right, gods, but not God, not the God,
and not the God. Right,
right. So she's got to rely on people to kind of set her straight here, and so she's, I think, just following the instruction of Naomi to go, okay, this, she's my mother-in-law, she's older, she's wiser, so she's got to know.
I'm committed to her.
Yeah, what's going on here? So I'm going to follow her lead, and hopefully this plays out well
and she's
for
not
us.
rebellious. She's not
No,
belligerent. She's been a woman of high honor and character. That's already been noted. Ruth is. Okay. I think what Naomi's saying is, okay, now I pushed you. I got the ball rolling here. I pushed. I got you to do this. You did everything right. Now let's sit tight.
We just got to see what happens.
Sit tight, man. Let's see what happens next.
And Boaz is showing that he's going to do right by them one way or the other. So I think that's why I titled it Redemption Assured, because it's at the point now where, you know what, we're going to be redeemed one way or another. We've got two guys here that are in line, and Boaz has taken the reins of this thing, and he's going to ensure that things are done the right way.
Yeah. So what about this one here? Okay. Naomi's done her part. I mean, she rolled the dice. It was a little risky. She's got her work done at this stage of the game. Okay. Ruth has done her work meticulously. She's got her stuff done. Now Boaz is saying, I'm going to fulfill my part. So far, Boaz has done everything above and beyond. And then the fourth party in it all that is overarching is Yahweh. Okay, we go all the way back to the hand of God, that this wasn't a coincidence.
Right.
And how
you said Naomi's rolling the dice, and I don't know how much that it's rolling the dice or that she's just following the prompting of God to go, dude, this is what you need to do. I know, and I don't.
Yeah, no, I could be. I think you might be right. I mean, there's a part of me, because Naomi used to be a faithful woman, and then she said, call me bitter, and he's done all this stuff.
But she recognizes where it all comes from, so I'm kind of going,
yeah.
I think, I think God's guiding
overall,
this thing.
I think you're right. I think hers. Do you think Naomi's listening to God and just saying?
I think she's prompted. I don't. It's not a God coming down on Mount Sinai like with Moses kind of thing. But I think it is because she's got a faith, because of the whole thing of she recognizes that all of these things that have happened and that have befallen her are, like Job recognizes, it comes from God. But she doesn't curse him. Right? She doesn't sin,
right?
And she doesn't bail, right? And so I think God's guiding this whole thing. I honestly do. I think this, and it could just be from the simple fact that Naomi knows that they have family back there, and she understands the law and knows that this is what she should do from a God perspective. You have Boaz, who is a righteous man and is living by faith. And so you look at this whole thing and go, I think it's a lot less to chance than we'd like to think. I think it's more, I think it's God guided a lot. And like I said, it's not a Mount Sinai type, smoke and pillar of fire and this is the way we're going to go. But I think it's, God set these rules down. This is our family. This is where our family is. We're going to go back. We're going to see how God guides this thing.
Yeah.
God's brought us to this point. All right, let's see what happens.
So what do you think, because I got a couple interesting ideas here, okay?
Sure.
What do you think is Naomi's absolute bottom line purpose of this whole thing? I mean, if you were... Survival, okay?
I think so. I think it's
survival for Ruth and survival for...
Yeah, because I think the reason she decides to go back is because she's got nothing left in Moab, right? She's, sons are dead, husband's dead, and so she's going back, and she's willing to go back by herself. And I think it's just pure survival. I think the reason they left was because of the famine. The reason she's going back is because it's revealed that the famine has been lifted from the land. So I think it's survival. I think, the reason she tries to get Ruth and what's the other daughter-in-law's name? Orpah, I think, is for their survival.
Yeah.
Go. I've got nothing for you here, right? I'm just going back to deal with life the way I can deal with it. And so I think survival is the driving force.
Okay, and we don't hear any more about Orpah. She was brought into the story almost like the foil for Ruth. Ruth has been the big player. I think as the story goes, we're going to see Ruth kind of disappears a little bit, and we start learning more about Boaz and a little bit of the legal system of their culture.
Right.
But here's why I asked that question: what's the bottom line purpose? If and I think on a practical sense, I think you're spot on. If in fact Naomi's actually listening to God and getting her instructions from being prompted, she's fulfilling something, a part of God's divine lineage, and she's protecting the royal line. So the key that I spent a little time last night actually just reading the historical background of some of this stuff in the kinsman-redeemer marriage and how they get a legal resolution and all this. The big issue was property in ancient Israel and under the Deuteronomy law was you're never to let property transfer outside the family. In other words, the
Right.
ultimate goal. And then the ultimate goal to be tied with that is that you'd bring offspring. Okay, so the family line continues and the family property continues, and the property ends up feeding the family because you live off of it. So now we go back to what you said. The land got barren. And so Elimelech, who's now out of the picture, dead, okay, he splits. He picks up his family, leaves his family's inherited land, his portion, and they go somewhere else. Now they're back. And I think what's interesting is, and I'm going to jump a little bit ahead, but we're going to find out that part of the motive, I think, is that she wants to get the family land back to producing, and she wants the family line to be secure. And I'm thinking that Naomi is just as awesome as Boaz.
Yeah.
But she comes at it a little differently. What do you
Well,
think?
she has to because she's a woman.
Yeah, she has to.
Well,
because she's a woman. Great
from
point.
from the structure of society, she had to come at it a different way because she was not in a position to make any decisions. Right. She was not in a position to redeem anything.
Yeah.
It's got to be left to the men. That's just how it worked. And
Yeah.
so she's, but God's working this thing because this is a continuation of the line, right? This Boaz is, I can't think of her name. The prostitute who hides the spies. Rahab,
Yeah.
right? He is Rahab's son.
Yeah, that's
Right.
amazing.
I mean, look at how, go back to
Follow
that
this movie
story.
out. I know.
Right. And how, if she doesn't hide the spies,
Right.
she's not saved when they come into the promised land, when everybody's wiped out. She ends up being the father or the mother of Boaz, which continues, Boaz and Ruth continue the line to David,
Yeah.
which thus continues the line to Jesus, and on and on and on. You see how this whole thing plays out. So that's why I think, God does have a hand in this. It's a little less rolling of the dice than I think it is.
Oh, it is.
But I do think that Naomi is faithful in the sense that she trusts in God's law by going back to Bethlehem and saying, okay, who's going to redeem us here? Because
Right.
there are responsibilities by the men in my family, in Elimelech's family, that they need to uphold to. And credit to Boaz to go, yep, all right, this is the way we're going to do. And it's interesting, though.
That's what he says.
But it's
I'm on it.
interesting, though, because it's continued through Ruth, not Naomi, because I guess technically Naomi should be the one
Yes.
to
yes.
be married.
Yes. Well, you're going to see more in the story, man.
Right.
I'm telling you. Yeah, you're on it. Yeah. Well, my closing thought is, okay, if we were to take it to an application of today, I'm going to impose it against the American culture where this broadcast originates, but we have a family that's having devastating trials and tribulations, results in the death of the husband and the death of two son-in-laws, moving away from inherited land to a foreign land, then come back, and a separation of bring these women, Orpah and Ruth, who are Moabites. Now you bring them back to their hometown. There's bad blood about that. I mean, this is not good. She's bringing in, like stray dogs. Okay, in one sense, who've got the spiritual mange because they've been dealing with these other gods. But here's what I get: the application is, you've got a really dedicated daughter-in-law. You have a really dedicated mother-in-law. You have God's sovereign hand over it all through trial and tribulation. And it's going to go from death to life, and then the continuance of life. And you got this awesome guy who's righteous, who's pretty well-to-do, and God has him right in the right spot. I think all of us need to look at our lives and say, where are the areas where we're not as dedicated as we should be? We get a little rebellious. Where are the areas where we get selfish or we miss God's hand in the big story?